Welcome to another episode of Ship War, my review of The Wolf of Wall Street.
Shipper War. When ship happens, I'm there.
The Wolf of Wall Street is directed by Martin Scorsese. It stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, and a bunch of other talented actors and actresses. Now, the premise of this story is actually based on true events, based on an actual true guy who actually really exists in this day and age, named Jordan Belfort. Now, the story basically starts with his story where he's just this guy who has very high ambitions to become a millionaire. And so he gets into Wall Street being a stockbroker. And from there he progresses into becoming this own entity when it comes to selling stocks and making money out of it. And he does things that aren't very good in the process to make this money, and because of that you see the rise of him and the fall of him at the same time. And I have to say, I never knew this story prior to going into this movie, and it was interesting to watch it on film, but obviously this film took liberty to make this story a lot more entertaining than how it most likely ended up really being in real life. I was even surprised this was a Martin Scorsese movie, because I know he makes R-rated movies where there's, you know, sex and there's bad language and all that stuff, but this is beyond anything that I can even recall off of the top of my head of anything that he's done that's as hard R as this movie is. Like, I'm trying to think of something and I honestly can't. It's kind of weird that he goes from Hugo, which is such a child's movie, to this film. It's just, it was just a complete like 180 is for sure when it comes to the tone of his previous movie to this one. It was just a little, you know, shocking. Overall, you cannot sit through this 3-hour movie, or technically 2 hours and 50-minute movie, and say you're bored during it, because there isn't a boring moment in this film due to all the crazy things that happen throughout this film. I have to say, overall, this was a very enjoyable movie. It was very funny. Leonardo DiCaprio did a wonderful job in it. Will he get nominated for an Oscar? I believe he should be nominated for an Oscar. Now, whether he will be nominated for an Oscar is another story. Jonah Hill, he should get nominated for supporting actor at least, because he was wonderful in this movie. Like, watching him just act, like, I didn't see Jonah Hill there. Like, that was not Jonah Hill. That was just a completely different person that I didn't know who he was, but that was definitely not Jonah Hill, because he did such a wonderful job with the character that he was playing that it gives you chills just watching him, because he was just so wonderful in this role that he was playing. It was just great. He was just an overall great character. As for the romance in this movie, there is a romance between Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Margot Robbie, I think her name is. I'm not exactly sure. They have a romance throughout this movie that's actually based on true events. I have to say, they had a very interesting relationship and interesting scenes throughout the movie. I have to say, did I enjoy the romance in this movie? Not particularly, because it was very, I guess, shallow and yeah, it's not a very good romance in the romantic sense. I definitely recommend this movie to anybody who's a fan of the director, you're a fan of the actors. Go see this movie because you will enjoy it, but just be mindful who you take to the theater to go see this movie. Just keep that in mind. But overall, I personally really enjoyed the movie. I had a lot of fun with it. I hope it gets nominated for some Oscars, because there are certain things in this movie that were just perfectly perfect. It's an overall enjoyable film. It's 3 hours long, or 2 hours and 50 minutes long, and honestly, I did not feel it. I personally could have sat there much longer and wouldn't have complained. I would have been entertained regardless, because overall this movie was very entertaining and I had a lot of fun with it. So that is all for this episode of Ship War. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. American Hustle is directed by David O. Russell. It stars Christian Bale, Bradley